Well, our today's topic of discussion is CAT versus XAT because, well, most of us are confused about how to prepare for XAT while preparing for CAT. Should we even appear for XAT exam? Like similarities and differences in both examinations. So that's why we opted for this topic, CAT versus XAT. So let me add a person to this live session. Meanwhile, we have done several webinars on CAT and XAT examination. So if you want to check out all the details and step-by-step preparation for these examination, then you can check on the shiksha.com and you can fetch all details related to this examination. CAT versus XAT, and here he is. We have Prakhar Jain with us.
Hi Shilpa.
Well, he is a
Hi
student
everyone.
at Auxiliary Jamshedpur. We welcome you, Prakhar. And on the part
Thank
of your
you. Hi.
introduction, I would like to say a few more words to everyone so that they get to know you better. Well, Prakhar has appeared for both CAT and XAT examination, and he has scored really well in both the examination. And for your information, he had scored 99.39% in CAT in 2021 and 99.98% in XAT in 2022. I heartily welcome you, Prakhar, in today's session.
Thank you so much, Shilpa, and I'm glad to be here.
Likewise. So, Prakhar, both exams, that is CAT and XAT, they are considered as the top tier MBA entrance exams, and they are similar in many aspects but have their own uniqueness. If I'll talk about the examination. So the first thing first, the most commonly asked question I'm going to ask you, is XAT really easier than CAT?
Okay, so I wouldn't say like XAT is easier than CAT. There are differences yet. Yes, there are differences between CAT and XAT. Like when it comes to the exam pattern as well, there are differences. But it's more about like different strategies you follow for CAT and XAT. It does not make one easier or difficult. It's I think like both are at par exams. We cannot say that one is more difficult or one is more easier than the other. So yeah, like CAT is definitely not tougher or easier than XAT.
I got it. I mean, you are saying that we cannot even conclude it out by saying that XAT is easier than CAT and the vice versa. So you
Yes.
said that there are similarities and differences. So can we discuss those similarities and differences of both examinations?
Okay. Okay. So I'll first start with the differences. Okay. So the first one would be like when you register for CAT. For CAT, there is a minimum requirement of 50% in your graduation, whereas when it comes to XAT, there is no such requirement. And after that, when we look at the pattern of CAT, there are three major sections. One is verbal ability, and the second one is LRDI, and the third one is quants. And you have like last year when we faced it, we had 2 hours for the CAT exam, and we had fixed time of 40 minutes per section. And in those 2 hours, we had like 66 questions. 24 were VA, and 20 were DI, LRDI, and 22 were quants. And what you get in CAT is that you have a fixed time per each section. So 2 hours for 2 hours you have 40 minutes per each section. Whereas in CAT you have five sections. One of them is quants. One of them is VA, which has a hint of DI in it. Then the second one is verbal ability, which also has a hint of LR in it. And the third one is decision making, which is entirely different when it comes to CAT. It's not there in CAT. And the other two would be GK and essay writing, which came in 2022. It was not following the pattern was not same, and in 2020 from past 3 years, the essay writing was not coming in that, but we had it in our year. And so yeah, this is the exam pattern. And like in 165 minutes, we have for the first three sections, 15 minutes we have for GK, and remaining 10 minutes we have for essay. But one thing which is there in that is that we can switch between sections. Unlike in CAT, you have 165 minutes and you can switch between the three verbal ability and the decision making and the quant section, and you can strategize your time according to it. Like if you feel that you don't need to spend equal amount of time on each section, let's say 40 minutes on each LRDI, for example, you can spend like 20 minutes on LRDI, which if it's a stronger section for you, you can complete it in 20 minutes. The remaining time you can spend in quants. So that's the difference you bring in that. Like you have the freedom to move between sections, and that's why it's really important for you to have different strategies for both CAT and XAT. So yeah, that's the main difference I would say. And when it comes to the marking scheme also, CAT has I guess 3 marks for each right answer and 1 mark for wrong answer. Whereas in XAT also, whereas in XAT you all have the similar marking, 3 marks minus one, but after a certain point of time, if you leave more than 8 questions, I think it was 8 questions. If you leave more than 8 questions in the paper, you have a negative marking for each question you don't attempt also. So the marking scheme is also, though it's a very less, I guess it's only zero point 0.1 marks, but there it is. So yeah, that's the main difference. When it comes to the similarities, I get the type of questions and the syllabus is pretty much the same except the decision making and the GK part. So yeah, I mean like the types, the level of questions might vary at times because see, the thing in XAT is you get to strategize your own timing. Like you can spend more time on one section. So the I believe that at times the questions are more calculation intensive and more logical than CAT, I believe, because you have more time to solve those questions. You have 3 hours and 10 minutes. I guess this year we had 3 hours and 10 minutes, whereas in CAT you only have 22 minutes. Sorry, 2 hours. So yeah, that's the difference and the similarities I would say.
Okay, I understood. What I have understood, I'll tell you. For the CAT, you were saying that the exam duration is of approximately 120 minutes, and for XAT, it's approximately 190 minutes, right?
Yes.
Okay. I was having word with few of the students, both from the XAT who has appeared for the XAT and for the CAT. So they were saying the time required for the preparation is somewhere around 6 months or the 9 months. It's sufficient to prepare for
Yes,
both examinations.
definitely.
But the type of questions in CAT, it is MCQ based and non-MCQ based. Whereas in XAT is only MCQ.
Yes.
So does make CAT more difficult as compared to XAT because we have non-MCQ questions as well? What
Okay,
do
so
you?
when it comes to non-MCQ questions, it's not filling the blanks or something like that. It's like the questions would be you have options, and at the most you have to arrange the order, or let's say you have to choose. I mean, like I think the only type of non-MC questions I can think of is arrange the order. So not subjective. But when it then there are only like around 5 or 6 questions out of the entire paper which are non-MCQs, and the major part of the CAT syllabus is MCQ type. Whereas when it comes to XAT, I think yes, we do have only MCQ questions in XAT, but it covers a variety of topics. Like apart from LR, DI, and quant and verbal ability, we also have decision making and GK, which are brought to the table. And this year we also had essay writing. So yeah, like I wouldn't say that CAT is easier, but then yeah, at times I believe like section wise it might vary, because I believe that DI of CAT is a notch higher than when it comes to XAT normally, and when it comes to verbal ability, I guess XAT is a notch higher than CAT, but more or less XAT and CAT I would say that they are on similar levels.
So you are just being neutral on the difficulty
Yes.
part. Both exams are difficult at their own level.
Yes.
And this is the question I can see Gravy Dumpster has a question which is easy. So what do you have to say to that?
Like I
Prakhar?
said, like I said, like to be honest, both are like once you prepare, both are doable, and we cannot say like which is easy. As I said that the level of paper on both the sides is similar, and I won't say that one is easier than the other. It's just the strategies you follow. You need to follow different strategies for both the papers.
Right. For both the examination, you have to prepare well. I mean, there's no
Yes.
shortcut, right? Right,
Yes.
Prakhar? So, yes, thank you so much to all the people who are waving hands to us. Thank you so much. If you have any question, feel free to send your questions in the Q&A box or in the chat box. I will feel proud to take all these questions and we'll get those questions answered by Prakhar only. Okay, next up question, the next up we have a question. Many students have asked this question. That requires decision making and
Yes.
GK section, for which we need to put extra preparation for that.
Hmm.
And how did you do that while preparing for CAT?
Okay. So when it comes to the GK part, I think you can follow. What I used to do was I used to follow some online channels on YouTube, like Study IQ, for example, which provided me with the information. And the other thing I used to do was the test series I had. So there was this GK section which they used to update every week. So that I used to follow. These are the two sources I followed. But I would recommend one thing is the newspapers, especially the Hindu newspaper. So that's one thing which can be followed for keeping update of your general knowledge. And apart from the GK section in cons in exact paper, this thing will also help with your interviews. Like they always keep a check on your general awareness when it comes to interviews. So yeah, like following these three sources, I guess any online channel on YouTube or any specific or any newspaper, or I guess the course which is provided by the institutes also. That these three sources are enough for your GK. And when it comes to decision making, I think like the 1 month you get between CAT, like I did not prepare it before CAT, but the 1 month you get after CAT and before that, I think preparing decision making in that, like that is an ample time to prepare for decision making. So one thing I would suggest is give past papers of SAT for decision making and try to understand the pattern which XLRI. So XLRI has some values and ethics, and they used to portray that. They try to portray that using decision making. So once you give their past papers, like let's say past 10 papers decision making part, you get a hang and you get a flow and a logical flow which they have been for section and what values they try to achieve through that section. So once you get a hang of that, I think like decision making is a very doable part. It's more of general, like common sense than knowledge.
So I hope, Sumant, you got the answer of your question, because she was asking about tell us more about decision making section, and we have received few questions in the Q&A box. One of the question is like, I want to know about this. I'm completely having no knowledge about this. Okay, so today we are discussing about CAT versus XAT. So if you have any question related to these examination, then you can just post your questions, then we can take it forward. So the next up we have Prakhar, a question from Alfaz Mazid. He is asking whether there is any section wise cutoff for these exams. If you have any guidance, any knowledge on this, then you can share.
Yes, both the exams have sectional cutoffs. For uh, for IIMs, I remember in CAT the sectional cutoff was 85% in most of the IIMs, and I guess only in one IIM I remember. I guess it was Bangalore, if I remember it rightly. It was 90% in all the sections, but most of the sections have 85% cutoff in CAT. And a similar pattern is seen around 80 to 85% cutoff is the requirement in XAT as well, except the GK part. GK does not have any cutoff. Um, Only the three sections, which is the quant section and the verbal ability and the decision making. These three sections have the cutoff in XAT.
Prakhar, next up, I want to ask you is that for the CAT and the XAT, we have a gap of 1 month, because CAT
Hmm.
examination is on November 27th,
Hmm.
2022, and XAT is in January 8th, 2023.
Yes.
Right, so we have approximately 1 month of gap. So if I'm preparing for CAT, will that be
Hmm.
considered as a substructure? That means a base for the XAT examination?
Definitely, definitely. Like as I said, when it comes to the VA and the DI, VA and the quant part, the syllabus is exactly the same. The type of questions are exactly the same. I hardly see any differences. There might be like the pattern in which the questions are coming. They might be different. For example, in VA, when it comes to CAT, there's jumbled sequence, but I'm not sure. I can't exactly recall if it is there in XAT or not. But the nature of questions and the level of questions, and when it comes to these two parts, is exactly the same. And when it comes to GK, GK is more of like if you follow the sources I mentioned or any newspaper, it's a 15-minute sections in which we have 20 questions. So that's very much doable. Yes, for decision making, that's something which you can put effort in that 1 month which you get, as I mentioned. So if you give the past papers of that and get to understand the pattern of the exam and the type of values they want through that section, so that also is doable. So yeah, if you're preparing for CAT, that pretty much lays a base for your XAT exam, except the decision making section.
So Prakhar, now I'll start taking up question which students have shared across. And so the next up we have a question from Raj Chopra, and he's asking how can we prepare basic mathematics for CAT?
Okay. So basic mathematics when it comes to CAT was, I think like there are some questions, some certain areas which are focused more in CAT and XAT. For example, when it comes to basic arithmetic percentiles and averages, mean, and when it comes to permutation and combination and probability, so and geometry to a certain extent. These are some of the prevalent topics when it comes to quant section in CAT. And if you like, you can find out which sections are. You can go through past papers and see which sections are repeating and which kind of questions are there which are repeating. So I would first suggest that if you're new to quants or if you struggle with quants, I would like to suggest that first you go through like the theory of these concepts and understand how the formulas are arrived, and learn the basic concepts and the formulas. And then I would suggest is go with the practice papers and the sectional papers. So, and once you give the sectional papers, the one thing which is very important is analyze the papers. So this was my third attempt when I gave SAT. And one thing which I did not do in the first two attempts was the revision. So revision and analyzing the papers. So this was one of the great impact which was made by me, which made a great impact in my result in the third year. That I analyzed each paper I gave, and through that you understand where you are making mistakes first, and second, that if you're doing it right, whether you can achieve the same question in the given timeline you have, because you get less than 2 minutes per question. So if you are like solving a certain question in 5 minutes, it does not really make sense to solve that question, because in that 5 minutes you could have solved three other questions. So it really and CAT and XAT is a game of speed. Like you need to choose questions which you think would be doable, and it's wiser to have solve three easier questions rather than going for one tough one. So yeah, this is one. This is something which you realize when you analyze the papers, and so yeah, once you analyze the papers, you will figure out that which areas you are lacking in, and you can maybe apply for sectional papers in that specific area, and then see where you're lacking and go revise the concepts. So this is the strategy I follow for quants.
So Prakhar, I have follow-up questions on what you said, and that's why I was taking notes. Okay. Okay, Prakhar. So the first step, you were saying that analyze paper. So when you say that analyze paper, like what I'm guessing is you were attempting PYQs, right? So
yes,
right. So that's how you just analyze it. But when we say that analyze paper, what exactly does it mean?
Okay, so when I analyzed the paper, so like I had this test series which showed after this paper what is the exact time. So first of all, it shows the what category the paper is of, like if it's quants, verbal, or RDI, and in that category, from which section of that category that question is from. For example, in quants, if it's from geometry, if it's from arithmetic, and then it showed that whether you did it right or wrong and the time you took in that question. So first I used to go with all the wrong questions. I did like all the questions I attempted wrong and why I made them wrong and what are the mistakes I made. I used to resolve them, and even and if I could not resolve them, I would like to learn I would go back to the concepts and revise the concepts and see if where I'm lagging. And second thing I used to focus is on the timing. Like I said, if you are solving a question in 5 minutes, it's better to leave that question and solve the other three questions in those 5 minutes. So that's the second thing I focus on, the timing and the if I'm doing it in 5 minutes, is there a better way to solve it? Is there any shortcut I can use, or it's wiser to leave this question? That's how you analyze it. So that's what I used to do too when I analyze the paper.
Okay, so now we know the ulterior key to achieve success in these examination, because Prakhar is being one of the topper for these examination, and we know how the self-analysis actually helped him to gain confidence and to work on his time management skill. And I hope the same, if you'll just do the same practice while attempting PYQs, that will help you to attain the same success in the similar examination. Okay, so the next up, we have a question from Sumant. What material to refer for GK and decision making? Though I know you have told us about the GK, but for the decision making, are there any resources?
No, I would not suggest that refer to any material for decision making. I think decision making is very specific to the. I mean, like when I note what I noticed in my experience was that when decision making, one question can have multiple answers. It's very ambiguous. The decision making section is very ambiguous. You need to understand how the ZAT, like XLRI want, like there are some, as I mentioned, there are some specific values which XLRI wants to gauge using that section. And it's really important for you to go through past papers and understand, like even if at one question, there can be multiple answers according to different sources. But it would be better if you go with the past papers and check out the answer key which XLRI has released, and understand that why they are focusing on these values, and these are the specific set of values and the logic XLRI wants us to follow. So, I mean, for the decision making section, DM section, past papers is the best source, I would say. So, if you like give the decision, just attempt the decision making part of like past 10 papers. So that gives you pretty much idea and a common sense which has been followed in those papers. So yeah, I think for decision making part, just go with the past papers and rather not go with the other sources.
So the next up, I'm taking a question from one of the student who has sent the question during the registration. So he is asking, कितने साल पुराने papers मुझे attempt करने चाहिए PYQ के section से?
So I would say like if you attempt, don't go beyond 10, because the pattern changes and sometimes the syllabus also changes. So don't go beyond 10 years. But I guess if you like, it will be better go at least 5. At least go for the past 5 year papers. But if you can attempt 10, that's up to you, and that would be better. But I would not say go beyond 10 years, according to my experience.
I can see that person has joined in this session also. So यहाँ पर प्रखर ने हमें बताया कम से कम आप 5 साल पुराने PYQs को अटेम्प्ट कीजिए, और अगर हो पाए तो ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा 10 साल तक के आप PYQs अटेम्प्ट कर सकते हैं. दैट विल गिव यू अ सेंस. आपको उससे मदद मिलेगी कि इस एग्जाम में किस तरह के प्रश्न पूछे जाते हैं. ठीक है. So the next up, Prakhar, we have a question from Jyosna Rani, and she is asking, I have a gap year of 5 years. Am I suitable candidate for the CAT examination?
Yeah, definitely. You don't have to think that you have a gap for those 5 years and that's why you cannot appear for CAT. Thus, the thing is that you need to justify those 5 years in your interviews. That what have you been doing in those 5 years and why there is a gap of those 5 years. And if you can justify and give a reason for those 5 years, then yeah, there won't be an hindrance and you don't have to worry about that whether I can appear for CAT or not. There's no age bar for CAT.
So those who are sending requests to join in this session, sorry I cannot add you during this session. But yes, if you have any question, feel free to send your questions in the Q&A box and in the chat box, and I will be happy to cater all the questions and we will get it answered from Prakhar. So Prakhar, next up we have a question. What is the XAT colleges, how many colleges accept XAT score for MBA admission? The question has been asked by Rani.
Okay, so I guess there are around 10 colleges which appear accept XAT percentile. So one would be XLRI Jamshedpur in Delhi, and then there's XIMB as I remember, and I'm not sure whether Nasim, yes, I think IMT Ghaziabad also accepts. IMT Ghaziabad is the one which accepts XAT, and there are other like 6, 7 other colleges which accepts XAT score. So yeah, these are the colleges which you can apply.
So next up we have a question based on auxiliary versus IIM, and this is the question has been asked by Romila.
Okay, so what about auxiliary versus IIM?
So basically, let me explain it. For the auxiliary, you can talk about what's, maybe you are from auxiliary, so you can just talk about what's better and why did you opt for that, not IIM. So something like that. Yeah.
Okay, so I think like when it comes to top, let's say 4, 5 IIMs and auxiliary, they are top around 10 colleges in India. They are pretty much the same when it comes to the fees, except for a few like FMS, and the quality of education they offer and the opportunities and let's say ROI and the placements, they're pretty much the same. And like there are specific colleges, I guess the perks of let's say I would say auxiliary over IIMs would be the batch size. We have a very small batch size as compared to IIMs, most of the IIMs. So the culture which you see is very personal and is a closely knit society over here, and the seniors personally know you and they're there to help you. Like even the placements which we are having these days, they are like really helpful, and even there is a personal bond between you and the teachers. So yeah, that close culture is something which auxiliary has, I guess, over most of the IIMs. But then yeah, I would say then there's not much difference when it comes to the top IIMs and auxiliary as such when it comes to the quality of education and the opportunities. So yeah, like both of them are like the top institutes, and both of them are the leading ones in India.
So here I will just simply say that both institutes offer great education and they believe on working on the skills part rather just making a rote learning bag, and
Yes.
they believe in creating market ready professionals which you can
Yes.
just see nowhere. So that's why they are categorized as the top B schools in our country. Further in this discussion, we had this question auxiliary versus IIM. So can we discuss something related to opportunities, placement and salary packages differences? And this question has been raised by Vijay. So if you could just share some insight on this.
Okay. So, yeah, like I think it's more about the you should choose a college. Yes, ROI is important, I believe. But then I think it's more important to choose the college according to your preference, area of preference. So, like for example, when it comes to finance, it's IIM Calcutta is known for finance and the opportunities it offers in finance. But when it comes to other areas, let's say consulting, then consulting is where IIM Ahmedabad, XLRI, and Lucknow is known for. And then HR, XLRI is leading institute when it comes to HR. So, and in marketing, in operations, SPJN is the leading one, I believe. So, like it also your choice should also be influenced, and I think it should majorly influenced by the work you want to pursue in the future and the type of opportunities you are looking. But having said that, there are equal opportunities in almost all the areas when it comes to the top B school, top 6, 7 B schools. Um, Top 10 B schools, I would say, there are equal opportunities, and the average package lies, as you can search it on Google, it lies between 25 to 30 lakhs per annum. But that being said, it does not mean that if you enter these colleges, you would definitely get the salary. There are people who are getting way more than these salaries and way below these salaries also. So it also depends on the efforts you put once inside the college. And yeah, so I think this would be the average salary. The ballpark figure would be around 25 to 30 when it comes to the top 10 B schools. Yeah, and when it comes to opportunities, yes, they more or less you get similar opportunities, but then you should also look for the other opportunity. Like as I mentioned, if you are you should look at your interest area and choose a college according to it. So it like as I mentioned, the Calcutta is known for finance and SPGN is known for operations. So yeah, if you can identify a area already, if you already have an area in your mind that this is the area you want to pursue, so you can look colleges accordingly. Other than that, if you are neutral to the area you want to pursue, top 10 colleges you can blindly trust because they have pretty good opportunities in all the sectors. So yeah.
So the first thing we need to do is we need to identify our
Yes.
or that identification, and then we can just plan it out.
Yes.
Right, Prakhar? Am
Yes,
I audible
definitely,
to you?
definitely. Your voice was cut in the middle, but then yeah, I got the most of it. So yeah.
Okay. Okay, so we have received a question from Sumant again. How many programs are there in Auxiliary?
Okay, so Auxiliary has business management, and when it comes to the 2 years course, the PGDM course, it has business management and HRM. And HRM is one of the leading course when it comes to Asia, and Auxiliary is the leading course, leading institute when it comes to HR. And other than that, it also has a global management program, which is for 1 year. And you need a minimum of, I guess, 5 years of experience to apply for that course. And there's a new course which is launched, I guess, this year or last year in Auxiliary. It's LSCM course. It's majorly for the operations people who have a major, who have a background in operations and have a 2 or 3 years of work in operations. So there is also a course for that. You can logistics and supply chain management, I guess it is.
Okay. So
Yeah.
the next up, this is the last question I'm taking for this session today. Dorothy has a question. Should I give that or not?
Yes, like I mean, Auxiliary. If you want to make it to Auxiliary, SAT is the only medium through which you can go to for Auxiliary, and it's one of the top institutes in India. So I would say, like, if you want to get to Auxiliary, you have to give that. It's not a option. So, and yeah, definitely you should apply for that. Like if you're preparing for CAT, the pattern is pretty much similar to ZAT, and I mean, like it's one of the greatest opportunities when it comes to B schools in India. So I would not suggest you to miss it, and definitely go for that.
Thank you, Prakhar, for being with us, and your guidance will certainly help us, several of students, not only us, several of students. And thank you, viewers, for being with us, and we shall come up with new sessions soon. And even after the webinar, if you have any question, then feel free to post it on shiksha.com.
Don't forget to like, share and subscribe our YouTube channel.